Hare Krishna. So we'll start the session by offering our prayers to Srila Prabhupada, who is founder Acharya of ISKCON, and because of whose contribution today we are able to understand this Bhagavad Gita. So we are on today, we will be covering the sixth session of the series of 9 sessions. Uh, we have already covered the secrets of happiness, key to success, tips to overcome suffering, art of work, importance of guide. Right, these 5 sessions we have already covered, uh, and I have also submitted shared quizzes with you. So I would request, like, if you have not attempted, then please attempt them. They are all open. So the links are also there on the WhatsApp group. So it will be helpful for you to better understand those things. And the slides and recordings are also there in the WhatsApp group. And today we will be talking about balanced lifestyle. So it's balanced in a sense that we have to understand that what is balancing the lifestyle means, right? It's all about also regulating the lifestyle, right? Trying to live the life, keeping Krishna in the center, and how we can primarily control our mind, right? Because this mind is very fickle. So we will talk a lot about, mind control today in this session. And then in future, we will talk about am I in real control of things which are happening? Who is the supreme controller? And then the ultimate perfection. So we'll start today's session on balanced lifestyle, and we will be covering following topics: nature of mind, what's all about regulation of mind. Is regulation difficult, right? And then what is the solution, right? And what if I try and fail in controlling the mind, in regulating the lifestyle and living a balanced lifestyle? Okay. And then at the end, as always, we'll share the practical tips of the day. So the first topic is nature of mind. You know, what is it? What is mind, right? So first we have to understand what is mind, the basics of it, so that we can control it, right? Um, and of the all 8 material elements like earth, water, fire, air, ether, right? Mind, intelligence, and false ego. This is the most powerful and the most difficult to control. And if we are in control of mind, then it will be very easy for us to live a regulated and balanced lifestyle. And Krishna acknowledges this fact in Bhagavad Gita, where he says, Mave vansho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana mana shashta indriyani prakati sthani karhishati. Krishna says, the living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. So here, Krishna is highlighting the fact that we are all spirit souls and we are his part and parcel, right? So uh, basically, if we are his part and parcel, we are his eternal fragmental parts. That means we all have the same desire, what Krishna is of, right? Which is when we say Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchitananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinde Sarva Karana Karana. In this we say that Krishna is full of knowledge, full of bliss, and he's eternal. And if we are his eternal fragmental parts, then we should also have those qualities. We should be full in knowledge, right? We should be blissful. Blissful means happy. And our life should be eternal, right? We should not die. And that is why, if you see, these are the main things which we all are hankering for. We never want to die. We are afraid of death. Why? Because primarily, constitutionally, we are all eternal, right? Which is why, this is something um, which is not related to our constitutional position. And that is why if we think of something like that, we are afraid of it. And from our very childhood, there's one thing which, we try to understand or gain, which is knowledge, right? We try to, when we were very small, we would always ask, what is this in the sky? What is that? We will ask so many questions. Our kids, right? As parents, you would see that, and you would have seen that kids want to know everything about everything, right? And even now, why is Google so successful? Because it is giving a platform to know about things, right? Easily, in an easy way, right? So that knowledge acquiring propensity is there in us because we are full of knowledge. Only it is covered. For example, when a bulb is covered with the layers of cloth, if you cover it, you will not be able to see the light coming out of bulb. But as you remove those coverings, gradually you will start seeing that glow, right? Which is what we are doing when we are trying to understand spirituality, when we are trying to chant the name of Hari in form of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, right? When we chant the names of Hari, when we chant the name of Krishna, what we are doing is we are uncovering that bulb. We are uncovering that qualities of soul, which is going to glow, once we are totally pure. So we will be full of knowledge. And then what else? Full of bliss. And we have discussed it a lot that how all of us are seeking for happiness. Whatever we do, our aim is to be happy, right? Because constitutionally, we are all happy. We are all full of bliss, right? So here, Krishna is saying the same thing, right? And then what is he saying further is due to conditioned life. Conditioned life means due to the fact that we are thinking that we are this body. This is known as conditioned life. And that is what we talk about false ego. False ego is forcing us to think that we are this body and not the soul. So as long as we think that we are this body, that is known as conditioned life, right? So due to this conditioned life, they are struggling. They means we are struggling very hard with six senses, which include the mind. It's so difficult to control the mind and the senses, right? Now, we see, for example, right, when we go out for shopping, and these modern capitalists, they are very smart, right? Earlier, when we were small, there was a shop. We used to give money that I want to buy this, and they used to give it. It was easy, right? Although we may see so many things, the things were far from us. But now they have opened the doors. You have come here to buy one thing, but you will take 10 things along with you, right? And this is the whole philosophy of these malls. And by chance, if we have a small kid along with us, right? Then what happens? Then it is like a restless mind. There will not be any processing, but just get it, just take it, just grab it, right? Our mind acts like that, like a small child. The child wants everything, right? And the same is mind. Mind also wants to grab everything. So let's see. This is a short, funny video which I want to show what our mind does. right? So we saw, how our mind, which is akin to a child, acts without any processing, without any thought process. It will just like to act, right? So here Krishna highlights a fact, how we should try to control these things. We have in past also we have discussed about this shloka, but it was relevant to today's topic. So I'm bringing it up again. Dhyayato Vishwam Pumsam Sangasteshu Pujayate Sangat Sanjayate Kama Kamat Krodha Abhijayate. Krishna says here, while contemplating the objects of senses. Now, what are the objects of senses? Like, the chocolates which that kid was trying to pick up from the mall, right? For example, sense objects are all the advertisement we see, all these things we see around where our senses get attracted to sense objects. So Krishna is saying, uh, while contemplating the objects of senses, a person develops attachment for them, right? And that is the formula which advertising company they basically take, right? uh, that they want to show that this thing is so important that without this our life is of no good, right? So they want us to develop attachment for them. How? By showing that again and again to us through advertisement, through billboards, every place you see. Now you open your any internet browser, you will see some advertisements, because they want that you should develop attachment. And then what happens from such attachment, lust develops. And we have talked about what lust is, right? Lust is intense hankering to acquire anything, intense hankering. Then we, from attachment, if you continue that contemplation on that sense object, that intense hankering develops, right, which is known as lust. And if what happens, and from lust anger arises, right? Now how does it arise? We have seen this chart, right? From sense, if we contemplate on sense objects, attachment develops. Attachment increases, we develop lust. If it is not fulfilled, right, if we are not able to get something which we want, for which we have developed a intense desire, right, then we get angry. And as soon as you get angry, what happens? Bewilderment of mind, loss of intelligence, insanity, and you end up doing all wrong acts, right? All of us have seen how does this happen, right? So which is why I again and again say and highlight that Gita is very practical. It is helping us to understand how to live happily in this world, and also how to be successful in this world, and then how to achieve the aim of human life, right? Which is to go back home, back to Godhead, to Golok Vrindavan, Vaikuntha. So it shows that the mind control basically starts from the point of contemplation on sense objects. So we have to be very careful, you know, and try to control these senses. This is the starting point, right? And then what happens? Here, Arjuna is saying, Krishna uh, is a friend, is a relative, and also acting as a guru of Arjuna, right? But Arjuna is putting all the questions on behalf of all of us, right? Because Arjuna is representing all of us. He's speaking on behalf of all of us to Krishna. And what does Arjuna speaks here about mind? Chanchalam hi mana Krishna pramadi balvad dridam tasyaham nigraham manne vayor eva sudushkaram. Now here Arjuna is talking that how difficult it is to control the mind. He says that I can control wind, but I cannot control mind. I can control wind, but I cannot control mind. He says, Arjuna, this verse is spoken by Arjuna. Arjuna is saying the mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong. Oh Krishna, And to subdue it, I think, is more difficult than controlling the wind, right? And we know who Arjun is. Arjun is a person who can hit his target seeing the impression of the target in the moving ball, right? In the reflection of the target in the moving ball. So his mind was in such control. He could meditate on things with such perfection. He could go to higher planets in the same body, right? He was such an intelligent fellow, and he is saying this, that Krishna, it is very difficult to control the mind, right? Now, why is our mind so fickle, and what does this mind wants? What does it is it seeking for every now and then? And we know that it is seeking for happiness. Every attempt of mind to do any activity is to get happiness, right? But why then this mind is driving us crazy? Right? If it is seeking happiness, then what's the problem? The problem is that it is looking for the right thing in the wrong place. For example, if you look in the desert, right, and you are seeing this mirage, right? Now, that mirage may look like water, but it is only a illusion of water. It is not real water. So, the so-called happiness of this material world is like this mirage, the reflection, illusory reflection. But if we are seeing this mirage, it also tells us that there must be water somewhere. So there must be substantiality somewhere, right? And there is actually. But unfortunately, we are looking it at the wrong place, right? Okay. Now, here what we see is that this elder brother is trying to help his younger brother who has gone sick by giving random medication, right? He thinks that if he is sick, I can give any medicine. He has seen his mother giving medicines, right? But he didn't realize that mother gives medicine only on the advice of a doctor. But this young fellow was not able to realize that, right? And that is what our mind is trying to do. Mind is trying to help us by giving us so-called happiness by different things, right? Now, mind's idea of happiness is that if you acquire things, accumulate things, if you exploit the resources of nature or of others, supply the needs of senses unlimitedly, you supply as much as you can, you think that you get fame and you will be happy, right? Or association with opposite sex, and that will make you happy, right? This is the mind's idea of happiness, right? So this is what is happening with all of us when mind dictates us, when that child does not know where is the actual medicine, when in the desert we are looking for water, we will only get mirage, right? Now, why is that all happening? This all is happening because we have set up wrong goals, right? Now, the mind frames the goal based on what it hears from its surroundings, from everywhere, right? And what is it hearing? Make money and you will be happy. Become that, become this, you will be happy. Achieve that, buy this product, all this. And why? Why is this? Because people tell us this. Advertisements are telling us buy this, buy that. But unfortunately, the result is in front of us. And this data is only showing how superfluous is this material world. When so-called most of the advanced countries are the one where citizens are taking highest amount of antidepressants, that shows that most of these, not most, I would say, majority or a large percentage of population of these so-called advanced countries, and USA is top on the list, where 11% of Americans over the age of 12 are taking antidepressant, right? So this is the unfortunate truth. This is the superfluous reality of this material world. Why? Krishna has already highlighted this in Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says, Yehi sam sparsh jab hoga, dukha yona evate, adi antvanta kaunteya, na teshu ramate buddha. In this verse, Krishna is highlighting that sense enjoyment is ultimately distressful. And we are seeing that. Because it is distressful, people are depressed and they end up taking antidepressants, right? After oncology, antidepressants, psychotic drugs are the highest selling drugs, right? And whenever this Great Depression comes, all these things, pharma companies, you see their stocks will go up because they are happy. People will get more and more depressed, right? So we have many people in this forum who are from pharma background, right? We are serving the health industry and we know this truth, right? Now, what is Krishna saying here? An intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery, which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not delight in them. So here Krishna is giving advice to all of us, right? And this advice is very important, very practical. If we want to save ourselves from going down, the hell. If you see this picture, I try to post relevant pictures here, making some sense to the verse. So if you see here, all these people who are having, unnecessarily attachment, pride, false prestige, greed, lust, ignorance, anger, they are going down the stairs towards hell. While, people who are on path of spirituality, right? Accepting a spiritual master, a study of Vedas, austerity, sense control, spiritual knowledge, are going towards Vaikuntha, Golok Vrindavan, towards Radha and Krishna, right? And Krishna here is saying that an intelligent person, I tell you, you all joining this session, you would have had other options also to spend your Sunday 2 hours, 1.5 hours. But you are taking this time to listen to this session because you definitely and undoubtedly have higher intelligence. And here Krishna is talking to all of you through this verse. He is saying that an intelligent person does not take part in sources of misery which are due to contact with material senses, right? All what we talked about, trying to exploit, trying to acquire more and more, you know, try to enjoy things, right? All these things is what Krishna is saying, they are temporary. Such pleasure, although they may have some pleasure, they give some pleasure. That is why people are after them. It is not that they don't give pleasure, right? Krishna is not saying they don't give, but the problem is the pleasure is temporary. The pleasure has a beginning and an end. And because it has an end, anything which has an end will be a problem, right? And we might have seen practically in our lives that how when everything goes well, it is good. But when it ends, it gives more distress, more anxiety, more depression than what it had, what happiness it gave when we had those things with us. And everything in this material world is temporary, including our bodies. The very nature of this material world is dukhalayam ashashwatam. Krishna has said these two words about this material world, that it is dukhalayam, it is full of miseries. Dukhalayam. And ashashwatam, it is temporary. Shashwat, an opposite of shashwat is ashashwat. Shashwat means eternal. We are eternal fragmental parts of Krishna because we are eternal soul, right? Soul is eternal. But this Material world is dukhalayam ashashvatam. This is temporary. And that is why it gives us so much of misery, right? So much of distress. So this was the basic, background of mind. Now, how does it function? How does the mind function? For example, uh, I gave this example before also, but to reiterate, uh, it basically functions on likes and dislikes. For example, if a person is a diabetes, he has diabetes, and this person will see a very good maybe gulab jamun, huh? Or jalebi, whatever, some sweet. The mind will say, you like it, why don't you grab it? Or if they say something which the mind had bitter experience in past, the mind will say, you don't like it, don't take it, right? So mind only evaluates things in like and dislike, while the intelligence will tell you this is right or wrong, right? And that is why it is more important for all of us to have higher intelligence, to have transcendental intelligence, to control the mind, right? So, and then Krishna shares something more important. What it is saying, avratam jnanam etena jnanino nitya verina kamarupena kaunteya dushpurena lena cha. What Krishna is saying here, the wise living entity's pure consciousness becomes covered by his eternal enemy. Now, pure consciousness is talking about, you know, you can also refer it to our eternal consciousness is covered by our eternal enemy in the form of lust, which is never satisfied and which burns like fire. So, our intelligence is highly influenced by this one enemy. This is very, very strong enemy, which is lust, which is never satisfied. If you pour ghee in the fire, what will happen? Same thing. Lust is one thing which is never satisfied. And what is lust? Lust is intense hankering for sense objects, right? So then Krishna says, if lust is our enemy, the by default question is, okay, then where is this lust? How can I conquer the lust? Right? If it is my enemy, then Krishna, please help me. Tell me where is it sitting? And Krishna then highlights Indriyani manobuddhe asya dishtanam uchyate etervamahayati esha jnanam avarte dehinam. The senses, the mind, and the intelligence are sitting places of this lust. So, this lust, which is our eternal enemy, is sitting in our mind, in our intelligence, and in our senses. And through them, lust covers the real knowledge of the living entity and bewilders him. So, this is what we have to do. Until and unless we are not able to conquer this lust, you know, our mind will drive us crazy. Mind will, like a pendulum, it swings in two states from bhoga to tyaga. You know, you like things, eat, overeat, then you have indigestion. And then what you will do? You say, oh, I will do tyaga. I will not touch, not do. So it is like a pendulum. It will go to extremes. But we have to live a regulated and a balanced lifestyle, right? And because our intelligence is also covered by lust, our mind is clueless because it was intelligence who was controlling the mind, but our intelligence itself is covered by lust, right? So then what is the solution? How to control the mind? And Krishna will give us all the remedies, fortunately. Bandhur atmat manastasya yen atmeva atmana jita anatmanastu shatrutve vartit meva shatruvat. For him who has conquered the mind is best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy. Now, the solution is Krishna is here talking about the mind. If somehow we are able to control the mind with transcendental intelligence, right? Now, when this lust is sitting on these three places, what are these three places? Senses, mind, and intelligence. And we saw how we can regulate our senses, mind, and intelligence by involving in spiritual things. If we chant Krishna's name, if we read Bhagavad Gita, if we listen or hear to Krishna Katha, then we will get transcendental intelligence. And that transcendental intelligence will then be able to control the mind, right? So here Krishna is saying that for one who has conquered the mind is best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, the mind remains the greatest enemy. So mind can be our friend as well as our enemy, the greatest enemy, depending on how we are able to control this mind, right? And this is a surgical knife. So a surgeon knows how to use this knife, right? But if this knife is given to a child, what will happen? You know, he or she may end up cutting his body parts, right? So the same knife, which can be very nicely used by an expert surgeon, the same thing can be used by someone who is not expert to do harm, right? And similarly, an example of key is given. That key can be used to unlock things, right? And the same key can be used to lock things, right? So same mind is locking ourselves in this material world, and the same mind can unlock us and give the path for Golok Vrindavan or Vaikuntha, right? And here, this example we have seen, and I just discussed that Indriyani parani ahur indriyebhya param mana manasastu parabuddhir yo buddhi paratastu saha. The working senses are superior to dull matter. Mind is higher than the senses. Intelligence is still higher than the mind. And he is, that is the soul, is even higher than the intelligence. So hierarchy is given. So in hierarchy, mind is higher than senses, intelligence is higher than mind, and our consciousness, ourselves, our soul, we are higher than the intelligence, right? This is again the same example of chariot. Chariot is like a body. If we have to control our senses, we have to have higher intelligence, right? Because otherwise this mind, the reins of this chariot is going to only drive us crazy. Because these horses, if they are not controlled, they will pull us in different directions. And so are our senses. If left free, they are like wild dogs. They will pull you in every possible direction. And if these horses are pulled in different directions and the intelligence through mind is not able to control them, then what will happen to the consciousness, to the person sitting in this chariot, right? The consciousness will fall down. We will become insane, right? And then there is no talk about balanced lifestyle or regulative lifestyle. It will be just a crazy lifestyle, right? So how should we train our mind? Our mind we have to train by chanting, reading, hearing about Krishna so that we gain transcendental intelligence. Transcendental intelligence will then help us to get a steady mind. Hmm? A steady mind thereafter can give us what? Peace. And then if we are peaceful, then only can we be happy. And this is basically, there is a shloka in Bhagavad Gita in second chapter, 66th shloka, where it is said this thing, nasti buddhir yuktasya nacha yuktasya bhavana nacha bhavayate shanti ashantasya kutha sukham. How can you be happy if you are not peaceful? Ashantasya kutha sukham. Hmm? So this basically is already highlighted. The formula to control the mind is to have transcendental intelligence. And this transcendental intelligence will only come by transcendental activities. Otherwise, these senses are only going to drive us crazy. Okay. So how to control the mind, right? Again and again, you have to remind that mind through your transcendental intelligence that you are not the master, right? And you have to be really on top of this thing. Give mind positive engagements. Sometimes this mind is compared to a small child, what we saw in that small video clip. What is happening to that child, right? So you have to give this mind positive engagements, right? uh, Make this mind servant of intelligence, right? You have to always subjugate it with higher intelligence, and studying Bhagavad Gita is one of those activities whereby we are engaging our intelligence to control the mind, right? That is very important. That is very important formula to control the mind, right? And here again we see one of uh, the greatest personality, uh, King Martin Luther said that our scientific power has outrun our spiritual power. We have guided missiles and misguided men, right? So we may be scientifically, so-called scientifically very advanced, right? I will give you an example. We are spending so much of money in medicines, so much of research is being done, right? But are we spending even 1/10 of that money in finding out what is the root cause of that problem? If at all we propagate this Bhagavad Gita, even if with 1/100th of that money, I think so we can save the entire humanity from, I would say, at least 75% of the drugs which they are taking, the medicines they are taking. And that is why these modern capitalists, they always try to propagate these scriptures, these Vedic scriptures as mythology. They are myth, right? Because they are afraid. If this formula is known to everyone, then no one will, need our medicines. No one will be attracted to these cars, to these fashion brands and all these things. And which is what Martin Luther is saying, you know. Uh, Regulation is very important, right? Why? What is going to help us is a regulated lifestyle, a balanced lifestyle. And meditation is an important part. You see how people are now talking about yoga. Why is there so much propaganda about yoga? Because somehow or the other, people have tried to understand that this yoga is going to help them in some way. Although they are just taking it superficially, but somehow they are seeing some effect of yoga, right? Effect of meditation, right? Now, what is most important in meditation is doing the same thing the same time every day, right? So if you have to get up on time, right? You have to take bath, you have to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Daily, try to chant at the same time, regularly. And this is how we can control this mind, right? If you do same thing, same time every day, mind's nature is always to keep juggling with different options, right? It is because it is turbulent. It is, its very nature is it's fickle, right? But if we don't give it options, right, the mind is then forced to settle down. It will settle down, if you do the same thing same time every day. So for example, if you see, um, if you have to see the floor of a swimming pool, for example, so the water in the swimming pool has to be clear, crystal clear, then only you can see the floor, right? If the water is not still, or if the water is dirty, then you will not be able to see, right? So that is why our mind has to be, fully controlled, fully clean, fully clear. Don't give it options to be turbulent, right? We have to control. We should avoid all these bad things, right? And try to acquire good spiritual activities, right? Like, and most important of it is, reading scripture, chanting names of Krishna, right? Because um, now Krishna is going to highlight some important thing, that how, if we don't live a regulated lifestyle, what will happen to us? Whom are you seeing here? This is Kumbhakaran, only eating and sleeping. So here Krishna is highlighting what? Nati ashnatastu yogo asti, na chekantam anasnata, na cheti swapna shilasya, jagrato nevas Arjuna. There is no possibility of once becoming a yogi. Yogi means one who has controlled mind, right, and senses. So there is no possibility of once becoming a yogi, O Arjuna, if one eats too much or eats too little, sleeps too much or does not sleep enough, right? So these basic things are very important. What are we eating? How much we are eating? What time are we eating? How much we are sleeping? What time are we sleeping, right? What time are we waking up? Sometimes we think, no, it is not a problem. Sleeping, 6 hours or 7 hours is enough. You sleep at 1 a.m. and get up at 8 a.m. I have seen, you won't believe. People, they get up at 8 a.m., brush their teeth, and they run to the office directly. They will not do anything else. That is their lifestyle. And they are going to office visibly, but actually, where are they going? They are only going to hell, right? So this is what Krishna is saying. You eat too less, too little, or too much. You sleep too less or too much, a wrong time. This is, this has to be there. These are basic steps of trying to develop spiritual life, right? And then Krishna further says, युक्तहारस्य विहारस्य युक्तचेतस्य कर्मसु युक्तस्वप्नावबोधस्य yogo bhavati dukhahe. He who is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. So, if we are balanced in these things, what are things? Eating, sleeping, recreation, and work. We have to have a balance of these things, right? Very important. Practice sleeping early. We have, from our childhood, we have heard this thing. Early to bed, early to rise makes a person healthy, wealthy, and wise. All of you, all of us wants to become healthy. We wants to become wealthy. We wants to become wise. So why not to follow this simple formula? Early to bed and early to rise. And spirituality also says about this thing. Brahma Muhurat is the most important time where 99% of human population is still on bed sleeping, because they just slept at 1 a.m., 12 midnight. So how can they get up at 4 a.m.? Brahma Muhurat is the most important time for spiritual activities. That is why you must have seen that all the Mangal Aartis are happening during that time, right? In morning. in temples, right? So, which is what is Krishna saying, that we should have a regulated and balanced lifestyle on all these things. How much we also spend in recreation, you know, and also work, balance thing, right? Oh, now there is a this saying in corporate world, work-life balance, right? So you should have that, right? You should know that you are working to take care of this body, and this body is actually there as an instrument to take us to Krishna. We should never forget this, right? And try to avoid those pendulums, right? Otherwise, it will be very difficult that one day you sleep 10 hours, other day you will sleep 5 hours. No, no. Balanced life, sleep 6, 7 hours, right? Eat healthy food on time, right? And sufficient quantity. Don't overeat, don't undereat. And every person, they know how much is their diet, right? Vegetarian food strictly. What Prabhupada used to often say is that even monkeys are vegetarian. So you should not be proud just to be a vegetarian, right? You should be prasaditarian. You should only eat food which is offered to Krishna. Yeah. Yagna sista shino santo muchante sarukilbisha bhujante te to agham papam e panchanti atmakaranat. It is, this verse is from third chapter, 13th shloka, where Krishna is saying, if you eat anything without offering first to me, then you are only taking sin, right? So we should first offer all our foodstuffs to Krishna. That is known as bhoga, right? Prepare bhoga, offer it to Krishna, and then eat as prasadam, right? So there, these activities are very important, right? Because nowadays, why we are calling it as a balanced lifestyle? Because nowadays, what is happening? Everyone is fast, fast, fast. Food has also become fast, right? When I was in Ahmedabad, the business of restaurant was the most flourishing business because everyone is going to eat outside. And you see in Bangalore, in Singapore, it is even worse, right? They eat their breakfast, lunch, dinner, three diets, 7 days in a week, 365 days in a year outside. I didn't even know that in many of the houses in Singapore, they don't have kitchen there, right? Ishwar, is it correct?
You're absolutely correct, Sumit.
I was shocked to know that, that they don't have kitchen in their houses. So, this is where the developed nations are going, this is where the developed world is going. So that is what Krishna is requesting all of us, right? So, and then Krishna gives us a formula, that a controlling formula for controlling the mind. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Asamsayam Mahabhavo Mana Durnigraham Chalam Abhyasena tu Kaunteya Vairagena cha grahate. So here Krishna is giving us formula how we can control or how we can subdue the mind, right? Earlier we heard Arjuna saying that it is very difficult to control this turbulent, obstinate, strong mind, right? I can control the wind, but I cannot control the mind. And Krishna here is giving the reply. How can you control? Lord Krishna said, O mighty armed son of Kunti, it is undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind, but it is possible by suitable practice and by detachment, right? Now, what is suitable practice? Suitable practice is practicing of regular chanting, regular hearing, regular reading about Krishna, right? Many people say, not many, I think so, almost all people in India say that we believe in God, right? And it is very good to believe in God, right? But if you ask them, are you interested in God? Then they will say, what is he asking? They will not even understand the question. I believe in God, but what is this? I've never heard of it. Are you interested? No. See, if you are interested in someone, You want to know what that person likes, what that person dislikes, where does he reside, what does he do, what does he expect from us, right? All these things. You will only be interested to know these things of a person you are interested in, right? And that Krishna is not a hypothetical figure. Krishna is also a personality, a person. He also has feelings. You know, sometimes we become, so detached with this concept of, when we talk about God, that, oh, something which we cannot see, which if we cannot see, the God may not hear us, may not see us, may not have feelings, right? No, Krishna played his pastimes with all the devotees in Braj Bhumi. Paritranaय sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharm sanstapana arthaya sambhavani yuge yuge. Huh? Paritranaय sadhunam. He came here to play his pastimes with his devotees, to annihilate the miscreants who were disturbing the devotees, and dharm sanstapana arthaya, to establish the principles of religion, right? And then he says, I come sambhavami yuge yuge. I come after every millennium, right? So Krishna is establishing, is coming here and performing these pastimes so that we can hear those pastimes, we can read those pastimes. This is what is suitable practice. We can chant, sing about those pastimes in bhajans and kirtans, read Bhagavad Gita, read Srimad Bhagavatam. This is suitable practice. When we go to temple, this is suitable practice, right? Doing some seva in the temple. And this seva of trying to understand Krishna, trying to be interested in Krishna, it's not just about believing Krishna. Now we are trying to get interested into him. What does he like? What? And also when you do all these practice, detachment is the something which will come by default, right? For example, if you eat something, what will happen? Two things will happen. Your uh, hunger will go down and you will get satisfaction at the same time. Two things will happen in parallel. Similarly, if you involve yourself, if you try to even start these things, and detachment, when we are talking about detachment, it is not that we are running away and becoming sannyasis. Now, sometimes people understand there is a misconception that if we take to spirituality we will become babaji, we will become sannyasi. This is wrong. See, Arjuna wanted to run away from his responsibility to become a sannyasi. And Krishna spoke the entire Bhagavad Gita to convince them not to become a sannyasi, but to do your duty. So spirituality is not about running away from our responsibility. No, no, no. That detachment is all from all nonsense things, right? It is more about attachment to the right things, right? So we have to have that clear mind, right? Okay. So, and then if our senses are controlled through a controlled mind, then what will happen? What good will happen to us, right? Here, Krishna highlights that fact. Yoga yukta vishud atma, vijit atma jitendriya, sarvabhut atma bhutatma, kurvan api na lipyate. One who works in devotion, who is a pure soul, and who controls his mind and senses, is dear to everyone, and everyone is dear to him. Though always working, such a man is never entangled. See what Krishna is saying here. One who works in devotion, who is a pure soul. How will you be a pure soul? When we have a controlled mind and controlled senses. And the person who has a controlled mind and controlled senses is dear to everyone, and everyone is dear to him. And I tell you, this is a practical example. You will not have enemies. Everyone, you know, they will respect you because firstly, you are not envious of everyone, right? You are not over ambitious. You will be fixed even in your corporate world. I am telling you, I have this practical example. I tell you, because my these managers, they know that this person is not ambitious. That is why they cannot even think of exploiting me, right? So I work with my own style. I don't do any fraudulent things. I don't do any unethical things. I perform my work, and I perform my work efficiently and with high productivity, right? So why will anyone be envious of you? You will not have enemies, right? Everyone will be friendly to you because your main aim is to help others, right? We don't have any bad intentions, and we are not afraid of anyone because we know Krishna is with us. So what to be afraid of anything, right? Krishna says, if you come towards me, I think so, we read this word today only, that there is no need to be afraid of anything, right? If you come towards me, um, uh, we have read this verse earlier, second chapter, 40th verse, right? Neha brikama nasho asti na pratyaya, that verse, right? So that a little advancement on this path, there will be no loss or diminution, and it will help you and protect you from the most fearful things, right? So Krishna ascertains and confirms those things, right? So here he's saying, and though always working, such a man is never entangled, right? So you may be in Singapore, or you may be in North America, or you may be in Bangalore or Vrindavan, wherever you are. But if you are working with this consciousness, you will not be entangled. You may be doing the same thing with other person is doing, but it all depends on your consciousness, right? We discussed that a soldier is fighting for country, he's shooting, and he will be awarded, puraskar from the country. But if the same act of shooting is done for self interest by killing someone, then he will get the jail, right? So the act is not important, the consciousness is important, in what consciousness we are working, right? So if we work in Krishna consciousness, in God consciousness, then we will never be entangled, right? So this is everything today we discussed was all around mind control, which is very important, because if you have a controlled mind, your senses will be controlled, and that will help you to live a balanced and regulated lifestyle, right? So now we will move on to the practical tips of the day. Okay, so take home message for today for all of us is, don't do any drastic changes overnight. Take things gradually, because mind is very fickle. It's very, you have to do what? Constant practice of chanting, have a schedule, like do things daily at the same time, gradually increase them, right? Gradually increase them. And when the mind is trying to, deviate you here and there, control it. Control it by reading Bhagavad Gita, by hearing about Krishna from Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. You should progress gradually and daily, and have a guide, right? There should be someone who is there to help you, devotee association. If you remember in the second session, we talked about key to be successful, right? And Kapi Dhoja, Hanumanji sitting on Arjun chariot, right? A power of a devotee association, right? So we should have a devotee, because devotees are selfless. They they have no self interest. Their only interest is to help you, right? So we should have someone as a guide, and regularly read scriptures. That will help you, you know to have a very balanced and regulated lifestyle, right? And then we again will go through the same verse, which we revise every time. Krate yadhyayato vishnum tretayam yajato makhe dwapare paricharyayam kalo tad hari kirtanat. That the whatever result was obtained in Satyuga by meditation on Vishnu, in Treta Yuga by performing fire sacrifices, and in Dwapar Yuga by serving Lord's feet in the temple, right? That can be obtained in Kali Yuga by chanting of Hare Krishna mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare. It is the Kalo Tad Hari Kirtanat, right? So we should be very specific and chant names of Krishna, chant name of Lord Hari, right? Chant name of Ram, right? That is the medicine. And that medicine has been prescribed in scriptures. Here also it is said the same thing. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Iti so dasakam namnam kali kalmashanashnam nata parantaropaya sarva vedeshu drishyate. That Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. These 16 names, composed of 32 syllables, are the only means to counteract the evil effects of Kali Yuga. In all the Vedas, it is seen that to cross the oceans of nescience, there is no alternative to the chanting of holy names. Right? So uh, I would request all of you, right? And I am thinking now you would have started chanting regularly, right? So please take, spirituality seriously and sincerely, and you will see how Krishna will reciprocate with each one of you. Krishna is a person who is seeing you, who who has a heart, who cries for us, and he's expecting our attention. You know, so if we seek Krishna's uh, you know, presence through chanting of his names, he will definitely and undoubtedly reciprocate with all of us, right? And again, I want to request that, I post that quiz in our group. So please take that because it is going to help you to revise what we have done in the previous session. So I request you to all of you to take it. And in next session, we are going to talk about, am I in control? Right? Today we talked about balanced regulative life through mind control. And in next session, we will see, am I really in control of things which we think we are doing, right? We can change something because, our mind, our intelligence, they is trying to dictate that, if you are not there, what will happen, right? So let's try to analyze, that fact also in the next session. So now I want to open the floor for any questions, or if you have any comments or suggestion, anything, or even any realization if you are having, you want to share. Okay. If not, then we will end the session here. I want to thank all of you and my best wishes to all of you for your spiritual life. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.